Hello there. My name is Al, and this here next video, well, depending on when you're and from where you're watching this video is not part of the C++ series. This is now on a totally different topic. Which began as an offshoot during the other tutorial. I wanted to have some discussion about anti-security, and in order to do that, I realized that I would have to be looking at some functions that I'm calling, and the way that I'm calling those functions, the way I'm calling those functions is through a mechanism which was bringing up this warning, and the warning had to do with something to do with threads, and so I figured I'd start to talk about synchronization first, and it has become clear that either synchronization is just an extremely boring concept, and nobody really wants to hear about it, or more likely it's just too difficult subject. So I'm going to drop that and just move on to the security stuff. Now, there's going to be a lot of pausing here and there in this video because I've made various notes here and there, and not in an organized way, so I might be pausing and going through and checking to see what I might have left out. But let me just open with why this came up in the first place, why I got interested in this topic. The reason was had to do specifically, in fact, this class here called a map file. Well, I've called it a map file, and what it does is it creates something in Windows called a file mapping, which makes the data within a file appear as though it's just part of memory. So you read and write to it just as though you were writing to a buffer in memory. So no file handles, no seeking or anything like that. It's a very useful feature. Now, but according to the help, if what they call the security descriptor, okay, LP attributes here, is null, then they go on, they speak in jargon, and then they revert to English, and it says, however, this involves potential security risks. To avoid the risks, use a valid structure. Okay. Now, I have no idea how to do that because I don't know anything about it. That's the other thing that I should mention first. Is second reason why I'm doing this series is because I want to learn about anti-security, and so I'm going to be learning it as well along the way. And I do know a little bit, and I'm going to be able to tell you what I know so far. And through this exploration, I hope at the end of it to have a full and complete understanding of how Windows NT security works, at least in its current form. I've often found in the other tutorial I have a video called Exploring the Obvious, in which I said that usually when you look at very obvious things, they become less obvious as you look at them. In the same way, I've also found in life that looking at something which initially appears to be enormously complex, as NT-security certainly appears to be, the more you look at it, the simpler it becomes, the more obvious it becomes. So everything seems to go in reverse. But something is always increasing, in the case of something that's initially obvious, it becomes, decreasing, becomes less obvious. And you look at something that's initially very complicated, it becomes less complicated. So at least there's some consistency. Anyway, back to the performing this task. Okay, it just says use a valid structure. It doesn't tell you how. Now did I find it here? Or did I find it somewhere else? I think it came from here. I must have started here because I found out how to do it. Let me have clicked here. And they just tell you how to do it. They give you the code. They don't even explain the code. They just say, this is what code you have to write down. And that's true of a lot of these functions. Now, how did I find it? Let me pause now. Okay, I found it. It wasn't that hard to find. Starting from where I was, I clicked on here, and then I clicked on the second link, the first link, sorry, and I clicked on the last one, and then to create a proper access control list. Okay, remember it said use a valid security attributes. Well, I don't know why I thought that was what I need, but I'm pretty sure it is. I know. I figured out some of the wording, and it was. I needed to make it EACL. Okay, I figured out what that word means, or what that acronym means. And okay, so now they give you exactly, just spell it out. Okay, here's the function. Just write this down, and all your troubles will be over. I wrote it down, and everything succeeded. I don't know if all my troubles are over, but apparently now my function doesn't have a security leak in it. Okay. So now I don't like that. I don't like the fact that here I've written a function copied directly out of the help, no idea how or why I have to make it, what the security risk is, and how the function works. But I did know a little bit about anti-security before, and that was the bit I wanted to show you first, and that was the bit that involved the threading issue, which the multiple access issue, and I got rid of the warnings, by the way. And I did it in such a way that involved no nothing to do with mutexes or synchronization objects or anything. I do need to use what's called the dynamic library use, I guess you would call it, because the functions that are used in this access control file, okay, here's that function, all come from this library, this DLL called Advanced API 32. And it turns out that for that, if you're going to use this lib, okay, that's got to be Windows XP or higher, okay. So this advanced security stuff doesn't exist on Windows NT 4 or 3.51, if I sort of wrongly said before. So now I wouldn't want my programs to not run under NT4. Some people still use NT4 or the other varieties of Windows. So therefore, I don't link. When you use the lib things, then that's called linking. All right. These lib directives, okay, cause this to happen. What's my program called? utest. Okay. Oh, God. Well, I gotta get rid of these. I should get rid of these, or maybe these have a. Oh, it can't be. I've certainly used this under NT4. Reg set value. Get username. Oh, it's okay. It's just those particular, not the deal. Okay. So okay, yeah, that's okay. No problem, right? Because the DLL exists in NT4. It's just those functions were added later on, the ones I want to use, right? Let me just make double sure of that. What that reg close key. Now, see, this even works on Windows 95, right? So this lib has existed for a long time, but some of the super advanced functions that I want to use don't begin to exist until after XP. So therefore, I have to. If I use this kind of linking, right? Linking, just calling the function through that header file, and well, I guess I could still. I'm obviously linked to it, so I don't really I only need this verify proc. Okay. Anyway, this verify proc is the thing that was causing the problem. And I got rid of that problem using a totally different method, which basically loads the handle to the DLL in the primary thread before any other threads get started, and so therefore I can do the verify without having to use any global variables. Now that is really unrelated, and I did that to make it unrelated, so that now I can just talk about the security thing. Like I just told you, here I am calling a function. Okay, now this is essentially the same function with a lot of comments. Let's get past the comments. And save that. See, it's got that funny string. It does this funny thing, and then okay, that's it. Okay, it takes a string value and converts it into what they call a security descriptor pointer. Okay, a pointer to a security descriptor, which then you can pass back into the map file function, and apparently all your troubles will be over. Great fun. Why not put them together by category? One of the things I'm going to be assuming, by the way, in this video, however long it takes, is that the help file, the help documentation is using the English language, not some other language. And so I'm going to be taking as given that when they say things like something attempts something, right? If they use that word, okay, A attempts B, then A is something that can act, can operates in a way such that it is performing an action, and so therefore that A is an active object. Okay, and I'm assuming that when they speak about an object would be something which is a unit or a construction which has meaning only within the context of the operating system. So, for instance, there's an object called a user, right? But a human user is not an object as far as the operating system is concerned. You know, there's no human person in there, but there are data structures, I suppose, called users, and those would be the objects. Okay, so when they are talking about objects, that's one example. A file is another example of an object. A file mapping, this here, is an object. Okay. A process, like a program, is an object. A service is an object. Anything that has one of these handle values is an object. Let's see now if I can think of something that wouldn't be an object. See now. Well, time, okay, is not an object, but the system timer is an object. The amount of time a process has run is not an object. A record of the amount of time a program has run is an object. You see what I mean? Like something that can be codified and read and transferred or otherwise looked at by the operating system is an object. So therefore I'm assuming English language. Now, so for instance, I'm also assuming that the wording that they use to describe the objects has an English analog, or is very closely analogous to English. So for instance, this says security descriptor, okay? So a descriptor is something which describes something, okay? So a security descriptor is describing something. It is this thing, even though it is an object, there is another object. There must be another object which this object describes. Okay? Well, it may be. Well, no, it can't be describing the file mapping object itself, right? Because it says for, and I'm assuming English, right? The English assumption says for a file mapping object. It would say of if this was describing this, right? I'm assuming the English language, and I'm assuming the analogy. Then if this is describing something, and it's not describing itself, therefore it is not describing the mapping object. It follows that it is describing something, some other object, assuming that all there exists are objects, okay? That the atomic unit of things in the world, in the NT world, are objects. I didn't really say that explicitly, I'm saying it now. And if a thing is a descriptor, it is describing, that assumption might be wrong, okay? If we find out that's wrong, then we'll drop it. But assuming so far I haven't found any contradiction. If a thing is describing an object, and if the English language holds, and the thing that it describes is described as being for an object, then it is not the object, it's something else. And that something else isn't, well, actually, I think it tells us here. The file mapping object gets a default descriptor. Okay, so this object, okay, so therefore this descriptor, whatever it describes, is owned by the mapping object, assuming again English. Because it says here, normally, blah, 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 the object gets a descriptor. So a file mapping object owns a descriptor which describes something else. Now that something else happens to be something called an ACL, okay? An access control list. right? No, sorry, hang on. Oh, yeah, okay. Now this is in the descriptor. So again, that is not what this descriptor describes, not this. Because assuming the English language, whatever an ACL is, it is in a descriptor. So it's a part of a descriptor. Okay? That's owned by the mapping. And comes from an object, okay, called a token of a creator. Okay? Now that might be something that is owned by the creator, or part of, intrinsically part of the creator, whatever that is. And so you see how I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna just attempt to read through the help file using a standard English syntax, and in doing so, hopefully be able to decode some of this seemingly undecodable language. All right, now let me pause again. Hi there. Okay, now I just want to explain once again and make sure you understand what I mean by this dynamic function use. Okay. Now, if I have in the header file here pragma comment lib and then advanced API 32.lib add.p.lib or whatever, okay, then all of the functions I use from this DLL would be listed here. And the reason they would be listed here is because when I call them, I have an example of one being called here. Okay, reg query value EX. Now that one, it's okay. That one is good all the way back to, day 0. So I don't mind having that in my list. And the reason that's in my list is because although I'm linking to the lib and calling it in the regular way, actually it doesn't matter if I have it or don't have it here. I don't even need it because I'm already using essentially that lib, okay, the import library. But what I'm not importing are the things I don't want to appear in the list here. And those that I am just importing in the regular way end up in the list because when you just simply call it, okay, the compiler puts this code, some special code, and then puts in that special code, which gets called at program startup and fills in a table. And here's an example of using that table, and within that table contain all the functions that you have asked to retrieve from that particular DLL. And it doesn't know where they are, so it looks them up at program startup and fills up this table. So then it goes here, and then it does something and then jumps somewhere else. Okay? And you'll notice that where we are, right? We've jumped into Advanced API 32. Okay? Now, the functions I want to use are not supported in the earlier versions, and so therefore I have to use, wherever it is, I have to verify that the function is there. Here I'm verifying that this function exists. If not, return false, and it's not in the table. Where's the rest of that function? That's pretty much all. So in this case, I just needed to create a security descriptor. Now, and so I have several functions like that. Now, I want to actually go and look at that. Now this is what I just lifted from, like I said, lifted from MSDN. And then the next line defines according to the help file. Does it say it in the help file? Okay, string format security descriptor, and this has an acronym called an SSDC or something. Alright, I'm just looking for what they called the darn thing. Anyway, they're all listed in one. SD. Oh, okay, defines. Oh, this text isn't right. I should add the word text here, or string. The next line is in a special language called the Security Descriptor Definition Language. I found out. Okay, and they're all in a particular header file. Here, Security Descriptor Description Language.h. Does it say that it is that? No, but the help, if you look around through the help long enough, eventually you'll find out that SSDL stands for Security Descriptor Description Language. And there is a language, a syntax, associated with these things that we still don't know what they are. A DACL, okay? Now a DACL in English stands for Discretionary Access Control List, alright? And it applies to something called a securable object. And a file mapping object, as I described before, is an object. And it happens to be securable. Okay? Now, I'm always assuming English, so I assume that if an object is securable, then that is a property of some objects, but not all. Okay? So there may be some objects in the Windows world which are not securable. And I would think of an example as, let's say, file name, maybe. Maybe a file name is not securable. Okay? You can't restrict someone from, well, actually you can. But I don't think this file name itself is securable. I think that the reason why you sometimes can't rename a file is because it is currently being locked by something else which is securable. But in a sense, that makes it kind of securable. Well, what could be not securable? That is an object. See, most of these things are. Most of the functions that you call, wherever it's in base, or whatever. Okay, well, this is in the security section. But anything in base, create file, obviously. Now this doesn't take a security descriptor, right? So this handle, whatever this is returned, must not be a securable object. Because anything that's securable requires, I think, requires a security descriptor. Okay, so there you go. There are some objects in the Windows world that are not securable. Okay, so now, so here I put stop. Okay, baby steps. The first step was what does SDDL stand for, and that was, oh, okay, that's where that text came from. That must have been in the example. Can I get back to the example? Now they give examples for everything because I think the reason why is because it's so complicated. I mean, there's so much specific lingo used that it is another language. Yeah, there it is. And they don't expect that everybody's going to know how to do it, but they do expect that you should put your proper descriptor and pass that into the function anyway. It should be automatic. They should hide the stuff that you're not supposed to know about, but instead of just giving you the code and not explaining how the code works, they're just telling you, like what's all this text? Why is it this way? How do I find out what it does? Blah blah blah. Okay, so that's what I wanted to try to get to. Oh yes. Okay, now let me check my time. That worked before. I had a function, okay, I have two functions, not this, that worked before, fine, okay, and it stopped working. That is, this still works, but this one doesn't, and I never understood exactly why it worked. I just used one of their examples. Well, the example must have changed, and I can't find the new example. But I'll show you. Well, I'll show you this. I made a unit test to demonstrate the program. Where have I gone here? Now I made a directory here in temp. Okay, a directory which I intend to delete following this experiment. because I'm not sure what I'm doing and I don't want to break something. Okay, now currently I can go in the directory and do stuff. Now, suppose I wanted to just turn it off, like make this access denied. Okay, I have a function that does that. So my unit test, if I specify /d, that it'll deny access to that directory. I just have it hard coded. G was supposed to grant, but grant now doesn't. It used to work, but now it doesn't. And I'm trying to figure out why. So I run that program. So presumably at the command prompt you would type in, like, access blah 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 /deny. Deny all users access to directory blah blah blah, yes or no. I'm going to type yes. Okay, that's done. Now if I try to access this directory, I get access denied. Now I'm part of the administrator group. Okay, even if I click on this thing to permanently get access to the folder, it'll fail. Watch. I have been denied permission to access the folder. Okay, I need to use the security tab. Well, I could do that, but my program used to be able to do it. And I don't think I can even use the security tab. I don't know. Let's see, security. Authenticated users. System. It says that everybody. It says that everybody, right, is allowed except for users, right? Now, I realized why this is after reading through some of the help, and the reason is quite comical. In fact, they even have a picture showing it. Like all of these users have full control. That's not the problem. The problem is in the order in which it looks these things up. If it finds what they call an explicit denial, it stops searching and quits. All right. So it doesn't bother to check to see if any of these other users have access. But it sees that whoever's trying to access this checks to see if they're a member of this particular group, users, and it says no, not allowed, so it denies it immediately, right? If this was up here, right? If users was the first thing listed, it must read them backwards, or just listing them in the wrong order. Then I would be able to access it. All I've done basically is taken a group which everyone belongs to and put that first in the list and deny access to it. Okay? So it's just a trick. It's a trick you can do. One trick you can do, for instance, to grant access to something that you would otherwise be denied from is to modify the order of this list. That's something I learned. That's supposed to be a feature. Okay, now, but I can get it back without using that. I don't even know if that tab thing will work. Probably won't, because it doesn't expect this scenario. Whoops. and so it doesn't assume that anyone's done that silly trick. And the way you do it is there's a program that comes installed with the system called CACLS. Okay, and in this case, I have made a batch file called emergency, and I guess I'll just let me see. That's when I've blocked myself out. I don't want to give users full control. I just have to give them I want to remove. I want to give read to users. I wonder if I can put them together. Just read. Okay, let's try that. Now, I'm in the directory, and it should have done everything, but there's stuff missing. And I think, again, it has to do with the ordering. If I said, you see, a regular user a lower level user is going to be seeing more than I'm seeing. Oh no, this is the wrong directory, that's why. Okay, so it appears as though everything's here. Now I should be able to modify this file, right? Let me just modify it. Save. No, I'm not. Oh, but I'm still a member of the readers. You see, what I've got to do is kind of, how did that list go? I just don't want to have, I don't want to allow full control. Only the system's supposed to get that. Oh, but I'm Alan. Alan has full control. Okay. Users. Right. Read and no writing. So I have to add writing to users. You can only put one, or maybe you have to put it 2 lines. No, one at a time. Oh, I needed another /G maybe. No, next time I don't want to have to type it all in. No, not right. One at a time. Now I should be able to. Now I want to be able to do what they did. I should be able to modify. No problem. But did you notice? You must have noticed that in the security, I had full access to write, right? But users how to deny. But since I'm also a user and an administrator too would not have been able to write to that directory. I can't write because I happen to be a member of this low level group, right? That's quite funny. It's such a comical thing. Okay, so now next time I'll go through the deciphering some of this mumbo jumbo and trying to convert it into English, into like regular English words. And see, I've got a lot of text here. I'll just start doing that now, and if you're interested, you'll see that come up a bit later on. I don't want to put too much in one video. I'll scare people away. Okay, see you.